Alright, welcome back. So in this video, we're going to discuss our first main data structure, which is something called the array. So we have a few objectives here. The first one is we want to understand what arrays are and why we use them. And then secondly, we want to use them in our code. So let's start by talking about conceptually what the point of an array is. So suppose I wanted to model a group of friends. So every friend is a string with their name, like Charlie and Liz, David and Matthias. So I could make 4 friend variables. Each one is a separate variable. And if I wanted to add another one, I would need to say var friend5 is equal to some other name. And then I need to know for the next one, I need to do friend6 and then friend7. And so this is problematic for a few reasons. One is that this code is not what we would consider dry. There's a lot of repeated code here. Also, these friends aren't related to one another. They're totally separate. So it's not really a group of friends. So this is a perfect use case for an array. An array lets us group data in a list. So rather than having 4 separate variables, we can write one variable, and inside of it, we store 4 different names. So let's take a closer look at how arrays work. I have the same example code here, var friends equals, and then square brackets. So that's what tells JavaScript this is an array. Up until this point here, we're dealing with just a regular JavaScript variable, where on the right side, we could just have a string or a number or Boolean or undefined or null, but instead we have an array. So these square brackets denote an array. You can see open bracket, close bracket, and inside we have our list of data. To declare an array, it's a comma separated list. So we have our values like Charlie, comma, Liz, comma, David, comma, Matthias. And that results in an array of 4 items. The second important piece of information about arrays is that they are indexed. Just like characters in a string, where there's a specific number that corresponds to every character starting at 0, arrays are also indexed starting at 0. So every slot in this array has a corresponding number. When we make this array here with these 4 names, here's a diagram representing how the array is created in memory. So we have Charlie stored with the number 0 as its index, Liz with 1, David with 2, Matthias with 3. We use those array indices all the time to get data out of the array. So here I'm initializing the same exact array, and if I want to get Charlie out of the array, I need to know the index that corresponds to Charlie, which is 0. And then all I do is write friends, the variable name, bracket 0, just like we would for a string if I wanted the first character. Again, the only difference is that we're not dealing with a string of characters, we're dealing with an array of strings. So friend0 is going to give me Charlie. Likewise, if I did friends1, that gives me Liz, plus a heart, plus friends2 gives me David, and we end up with Liz, heart, David. We can also use the indices to update array values. So if Charlie wants to change his name to Chuck, all I have to do is find Charlie in the array with index 0, friends 0, and set it equal to another string, Chuck. So then our array looks like this, where we have Chuck at index 0. Same thing with Liz. She changes her name to Lizzie. We just find the correct index for Liz, which is 1. Friends of 1 equals Lizzie, as you can see here. And our array now looks like Chuck at 0, Lizzie at 1. The next feature of arrays is that we can also add data to an existing array. So if I got a new friend, which would be awesome, I could really use some new friends, all that I need to do is access friends and put an index in here that doesn't exist yet. So in this case, 4. And if I do friends4 equals Amelie, I will get Amelie down here, index 4. I'm now going to show you a quick demonstration in the console. I'm going to use an array to model colors. To do that, I'm going to define an array, var colors equals, and I'm going to put just a few colors in there as strings to start. Red, orange, and yellow. And I'll hit enter. I now have my colors array defined. If I access colors, it has 3 items in it. And if I wanted to print out orange, I would do colors, bracket 1, because it has an index of 1, and I get orange. If I wanted to add in another element after yellow, I wanted to add in green, I would need to count 0, 1, 2, so index of 3 is the next one. Index 3, colors 3 equals green. And now if we take a look at colors, I get red, orange, yellow, green. Suppose that I wanted to change green to be dark green. I need to access it first, so colors 3, just verify that. That is green, so I'll now change colors 3 to be dark green. And that's it. One quick note, if I do something like colors of 10 is equal to violet, and I hit enter, and let's take a look at what colors looks like now. You can see that I get red, orange, yellow, dark green, and then it shows undefined times 6. So what happened here is that I added violet at index of 10, and that leaves us with a lot of blank space between index of 3 and index of 10. So JavaScript makes empty spaces there and fills them with undefined. So there's a bunch of empty space in this array, which isn't ideal. So in the next video, I'm going to show you another way of adding data where we don't have to keep track of how many items are in our array at any given time. To wrap up here, I have a few other notes about arrays. The first of which is that there are different ways of defining arrays. The first way is to define an empty array using square brackets. In this case, I defined a friends array, but I have no friends, unfortunately, so it's just empty square brackets. The other way to define an array that you may come across is to write new array with a capital A and parentheses after it. So I won't go into too much detail as to what this is, but think of this as a function. It is a function, we're calling it with parentheses, that makes us a new array, just like this one does. So these are equivalent. In both cases, we have a friends array that's empty. The next point is that arrays can hold any type of data. So you've only seen them so far with strings, like Charlie and Liz, but we can fill them with numbers, with booleans, with null, undefined, with strings, with other arrays, which we'll see a little bit later. So we can fill arrays with all sorts of data, and they don't all have to be of one type. So here's an example with a number, a boolean, a string, and null all in one array. The very last thing I'll point out is that arrays also have a length property, just like strings. In this example, I'm defining an array of 4 items, and I run nums.length, it gives me 4. I'll go ahead and open up my console and demonstrate that. Let's define a new array here called dogs. And in dogs, I'm going to define a string Rusty, Wyatt, and Ollie, just like that. And if I run dogs.length, I get 3 because length just counts how many things are in there. But remember that the highest index in this array is always 1 less than the length. So Ollie is at index 2. Dogs bracket 2, and you get Ollie. So that's important. Just like strings, we can define a string var name equals Rusty, and we do name.length. We get 5 because there's 5 characters, but the index of the y is index 4. Name of 4 gives me y because indices start at 0. All right, so that's it for arrays now. In the next video, we're going to have a quick problem set.